What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. The usual Wednesday show with Mike Ryan is going to be tomorrow. Dan Levitard was sick, so Mike is filling in, but he will be here tomorrow. We'll do that crazy show. So we'll check that. We'll do that tomorrow. Today, we got a ton of Cane stuff to talk about, some quotes that'll fire you up, some stats that'll fire you up. A lot going on, man, and just it never stops, really. Now I think it's time to kind of reflect and get excited about certain developments that you see happening, both with recruiting and with the spring. With recruiting, with guys arriving that weren't here in spring, I should say, transfers, recruits, etc. A lot of new talent on campus. We got a lot to get to here. First, want to talk about some folks that aren't arriving. They've been here for a while, and that is Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Andrade and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
D, good morning.
Doing great, man. How you feeling?
I'm doing well, man. I gotta say, man, we always start these things with hockey conversation for whatever reason, a little banter. And I've been very anti-Panthers. I've been very anti the sport of hockey. I'm still always going to be anti the sport of hockey. But something last night happened that really disturbed me, really disturbed me. And like seeing what I saw last night turned me in a way that I can't talk about the Panthers poorly in this series. You know, I'm not gonna be rooting for them necessarily, but this right here was the kiss of death for the Carolina Hurricanes organization. As Lord Lisp was out there as the siren sounder, and I mean, obviously they're trying to do something to get because of the connection with Miami, but this was not it. This is not the flex that you think it is, Carolina. It really isn't. So yeah, I'm not going to be talking poorly about the well, listen, I might still talk poorly about the Panthers, but I'm not going to be rooting for Carolina. That's for sure. That is for sure. So yeah, that's all I got to say to start today's show.
Well, Pete, welcome aboard. Welcome to the bandwagon. I expect.
Well, again, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. I'm going to cool it for this series. I'm not going to send my energy towards my positive energy towards Carolina, which, you know, judging on the last couple of series and last year as a whole, the Panthers might actually be in trouble because of that. But I've been on a pretty generational run in terms of hate watching up until this Panthers situation. So we'll see what happens.
Well, listen, again, welcome to the bandwagon. And then, you know, I expect the Panthers to treat the Hurricanes of Carolina similar to how the Miami Hurricanes treated the Duke Blue Devils and Manny Diaz last year with the 3-touchdown win, a complete destruction in the second half, and embarrassment. So, you know, I expect the same thing here from the Panthers. Canes talk about Canes baseball getting run ruled yesterday in the first round, but you putting their regional appearance, which seemed like a lock, in jeopardy. I don't want to talk about it too much. Really a terrible performance. And it just, you know, at the worst possible time, the team has run out of steam. Could still make the regional. I think they're still probably maybe 55-45 to make a regional. We won't know until around Memorial Day. So we'll find out at that point. But until then, there's not much to talk about other than you kind of cross your fingers and you're not feeling very good about the way the season ended. This team, this program absolutely needs to add some bats through the transfer portal. That is non-negotiable. So switch gears to football, man, Pete, because I think in baseball, you get the press talking about what happened here. And I wanted to talk about a quote from our boy Jackson Cantwell, #1 player in the country, #1 offensive lineman in the country, #1 shot putter in the country, and becoming #1 quote in the country, man. This guy's got great interviews. He's super smart. and he's starting to talk like a Cane, man. So this is the quote. He wrote like an op-ed, I guess, for the local paper out there in Southwest Missouri, just saying why he decided to commit to Miami, kind of countering the narrative that you see from rival fans and media that's in the pocket of the SEC, just talking about how he took the money. And here's his quote. He goes, why, talked about Miami, why he liked him, Mirabal, Cristobal, etc. Yeah, there we go. Like and subscribe to this show. Appreciate you, Mikey. So he goes, Miami has a chip on their shoulder and the mentality that they're going to prove any doubters wrong. And there have been a lot of doubters, but I take pride in how many doubters there truly are. Penei Sewell was doubted for committing to Mario Cristobal and Mirabal. So was Francis Mauanoa. People don't like it when the youth threatens to come back, and it has only gotten better throughout Cristobal's tenure. You don't talk about a quote that's going to fire up Miami Hurricane fans. I don't know if it gets any better than that, between him taking pride in how many doubters there are, both of himself and the University of Miami, and then people don't like it when the youth threatens to come back. There's like a cliche on Miami Hurricanes boards, like the CanesInSight.com, 7 million posts and counting. Sign up for free. But when you see a quote like that, man, it kind of gets you fired up. He's already adjusted to being a Cane.
Canes Cats Heat 305 asked if they printed this in the paper and if they sell the paper copy of these. He wants to get this thing framed already, man.
It's a good quote. Shout out to Canes Cat Heat, man. He's going to get this one framed. So when it goes top 10, after Penei Sewell went top 10, after Francis Mauanoa goes top 10, when Cantwell goes top 10, you put this quote up with the picture there. So yeah, I think it came out in the paper. Yeah. Southwest Missouri is a big story out there, obviously, with when the best player in the country commits and goes across the country to University of Miami.
And everything that he says, D, just sounds like a kid who's been he's well researched, obviously, and there's a lot of stuff in recruiting where, yes, facts are going to be presented in front of a player, but sometimes there's just a feeling, right? And sometimes there's a prospect just wants to go to a certain school because that's where they want to go, and some of these facts are kind of thrown out the window. I think with Cantwell, you saw a guy who, when they did these final presentations, right, it was there sitting there taking notes and really taking the information in, as opposed to sitting there and kind of just having people throw this stuff at him and it, going through one ear and out the other. It's obviously he's retained a lot of the stuff that they told him throughout the recruitment, and it actually meant something to him. So I think it's impressive, some of the stuff he's able to rattle off.
Yeah, man, he's smart. He studies, like you said. What I liked is he talked about how Mirabal was the most objective, and then later on in the article it says Mirabal's the most objective recruiter he had, which tells me that, and he said they had a detailed plan, which, knowing a little bit, I don't know exactly the specifics, but I suspect that Mirabal kind of gave him a plan saying, hey, look, I watched your clips in the Under Armour game. I watched your high school clips. Pass blocking is your weakness. Here are the areas where I think you can work on. Here's what we're going to do. Here's exactly how we're going to get you right in this area. And a smart guy like Cantwell does his homework. When you do your homework, that's a connection there. So I think the fact that he's so well-versed in everything played into someone like Mirabal, who does his homework on his end and will really show how he can help this guy get better. We got a great comment here from Patrick Bass of Pop Subs. He's saying, fellas, the Bell Burgers are flying over here after that great commercial with Pete and Markel Bell. You can check out that interview. If you haven't seen it, it's on our YouTube channel. Pete
Johnny Lagoon said he was over there this weekend. He said he got one and it was fire. So glad to hear that, man. Again, it goes to a great cause. So go support Markel, and it's the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And he's going to be doing a back to school drive as well before the year. Question here from Gabe D. Jamal. And I think this is something we should clarify, D, because we were talking about some of the workouts. Saw the players doing some individual, the wide receivers we spoke about yesterday, doing a lot of the individual work. And that was with a guy, Top Shelf TJ, who's a wide receiver coach who actually, some of our guys, when I was doing the agency stuff full time, trained with him. One of my guys in particular trained with him. Dawood Davis, actually, the creator of the Cam Ward celebration. I know some people don't want to hear it, but anyways, he was a guy who came in and worked out with them individually, but the team workouts they have their normal weightlifting stuff, but then they also have the player-led workouts, right? And they get on the field, and this is no coaches. From what I understand, there is still some coach involvement, right? That's changed over the last few years. The NCAA rules has allowed some coach stuff to a very limited degree, but they're pretty much on the field out there, 7-on-7 stuff, a lot of stuff obviously without pads on. But yes, there's not really media coverage. These aren't real practices, but these are important. And you start to hear buzz about certain guys that, as we'll talk about later in the show, someone like Bryce Fitzgerald, who's now on campus, and you're starting to see pictures of him working out. And, he's a guy who wasn't able to enroll early, but guys like him, and we heard last year, guys like OJ Frederick at this time, Jordan Lyle, who had just arrived on campus. That's when we started to hear the buzz about them. So I think Fitzgerald was the only guy who wasn't here already, D, right? Am I correct on saying that? So not as many this year, but a lot of these young freshmen who were here for spring, remember, they're still high school players. And I think you see a big jump for them now in the summer when they're able to really, you're not worried as much about football stuff. You're in the weight room, and you can get a lot of like skilled, detailed work in. And I think there's a lot of growth for those guys in this period.
No question. And look, you got all the new arrivals from the transfer portal. So it's just a cool
portal too. Yeah.
It's just a cool time period. We did that long video yesterday with JoJo Trader and CJ Daniels and Keelan Marion, who just arrived from BYU, and seeing how those guys worked out. That video did crazy, man. Like guys watching routes on air is pulling huge numbers. So, Canes Nation, CanesInSight fans are excited for the season to start. Some more excitement on Cantwell here. Kerry C saying Cantwell's going to have some growing pains and pass protect, but he will be fine by season's beginning. I think we saw it in the Under Armour that was his weakness. He goes, listen, I'm not ready to play at Miami right now. I know my pass protection is not good enough. My plan is to get ready to play by the time the season starts, next season for 2026, which would be his first year. So he's conscientious. He knows what he needs to do, but this is a guy with a 4.7 shuttle in high school verified. He's 6'7", 320 maybe at this point, with 33-inch arms, big hands, and he's got the most power of any player we've ever seen in his hands with that shot put. So combine that with a guy who's conscientious and wants to be coached, and a great coach, and you could see quick improvement. It reminds me of those Iowa guys. I keep comparing to the Iowa, like the Brandon Scherfs of the world, guys that really had size and were lean but powerful, athletic, and really worked on their technique to be, by the time they came out of Iowa, they had the best technique around, even though they might have played like 8-man football or smaller football in the Midwest. By the time they finished, they were extremely technical. So I could see Cantwell, who didn't play at the smallest level. I mean, he was in a big high school there in Nixon, Missouri, but I think he's going to have a similar progression as far as really learning the technique because he wants to, and he has the talent to learn, and he has good coaching. Someone's asking, is Cantwell eligible for the University of Miami Hall of Fame? Drago saying, go Canes, go Cantwell. A lot of love for the new 5-star for the Miami Hurricanes. Got some more stuff for you here, but Canes 305 is a question I want to get to. So what are you guys looking for in fall camp? Any specific players to take that next step? Listen, we talked about it. We need a wide receiver 1. We'll see if CJ Daniels can get healthy, because if he's what he was at Liberty, he would be that. But certainly JoJo Trader, I think we talked about it last show. You're wanting him to take the next step. I would say some of the guys like Samson Okunlola and Tommy Kinsler, if they can take that next step to be basically starter caliber players, that would help you not only for this year, but then going into 26 when those guys are going to be counted on quite a bit. And I would say, how about Artavius Jones? You don't have a fourth defensive tackle through the portal. You thought you might bring in a veteran. They talked to Feely from Boise State, a couple other guys, ultimately opting not to go into that market, getting putting a lot of faith in Artavius Jones, the 4-star from last year, redshirt freshman this year from the Panhandle, powerlifting champion, basketball player, tight end, super athlete, looks the part, looks like an SEC defensive tackle. But he needs to, get up to speed. He was raw. He made big strides in spring. He needs some more strides over the summer, and potentially he could be part of your rotation.
I would say not necessarily someone to take the next step, but what I'm looking for quite simply is I want to see what Carson Beck looks like. I think that's the easiest answer, but I think that's got to be number 1.
Well, listen, let's talk about Carson Beck. So article came out. Have you guys ever heard of David Hale? I believe he's still with ESPN. Maybe he's freelance these days. I know he has a Substack, but he's a college football writer, really good at kind of pulling stats that you don't think about to either make arguments that people haven't made or just look at issues in a new way. He's not a pure stats guy. He's a writer, but I think his use of stats is very interesting. He covered the whole ACC. I think he still covers the entire ACC. So he's somebody who is not like a Canes writer. So I posted this again on CanesInsight.com, 7 million post and counting. And here's what he said. There's a whole article about it with a lot of stuff, but this is the one I wanted to focus on. He goes, what if I told you that one of these quarterbacks is getting love as a potential #1 draft pick for 2026 and the other is coming off a down year? Quarterback A, 82 QBR, 28 touchdowns, 12 picks, 64% completion, 7.78 yards per attempt. Quarterback B, 79 QBR, 29 touchdown passes, 12 INT, 64 completion, 7.7 yards per attempt. So you're talking about virtually identical with QB-A slightly ahead. QB-B is Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, who a lot of people think is going to be a first-round pick next year. Quarterback A, which was a little better in that stat, was Carson Beck. And this was last year's stats, not the year before when he was projected as the #1 pick. This is the 2024 stats. So basically what he's saying here is if you really just took put a blindfold on, just looked at the stats as they are, or heard the stats as they are without knowing who's who, you would say Beck is the #1 pick of that trio, or of that duo. I'm sorry. So that's pretty interesting considering that the physical tools are still there, assuming, of course, the return from injury, which so far so good. So that was an interesting one. Then this is even more, I think, interesting. What Hale did basically was adjust stats. We know Georgia led the nation in drops. We know that the running game was horrible, but particularly the drops and contested catches were probably the worst in the nation. So he got no help, and he got a lot more help in 2023. So what Hale did was he said, okay, let's take what happened in 2023 when he had Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, two elite players, but there were injuries, so he didn't have them all season. So let's take that 2023 performance from everybody else, and let's take and apply it to 2024 and see what Beck's numbers look like year to year. Quarterback A, which is 2023, 72 completion, 9.45 yards per pass, 24 touchdowns, 3,900 passing yards. Quarterback B, this is Beck in 2024 with the adjusted stats. 73 completions, 8.74 yards per pass, 29 touchdowns, 3,900 yards. So really, if you adjust the stats so the drop rate and the contested catch rate is equal between the two seasons, Beck was actually slightly better last year in those categories. Again, this is David Hale. This is not me trying to invent some stats to make Beck look good. This is an ACC writer taking a look. So basically what he's saying is, look, if Beck can get some help, his numbers are going to be outstanding and look very similar to what they look like when he was the #1 overall pick projected in the draft. Of course, look, is Ladd McConkey coming through the door from Miami? Is Brock Bowers coming through the door? No, but they were injured a bit in 2023. He didn't have them all year. And remember, he's joining the ACC, a conference that he absolutely demolished while he was at Georgia. Even last year, Georgia Tech, Clemson, bloodbaths, FSU. He absolutely destroyed these teams. It wasn't even close. Even with the subpar supporting cast last year at Georgia, destroyed these teams. So when you look at these stats, I think you're feeling pretty good about where Beck projects next year in the ACC if he's healthy. And so far, everything we're hearing, everything we're seeing is that arm's not going to be a problem. Brock Purdy had the same surgery. Almost won the MVP the next year. And what did he just sign for, Pete? Like $260 million or something like that. So
yeah, I just got a text, D.
What's going on?
I can't reveal any sources here. I don't want to put anyone out, but my cousin is golfing with Carson Beck right now. Said he's good.
Really?
Yes.
Let's find out what the golf game looks like. We saw the swing. It looked fantastic.
Yeah, that's why I don't feel bad saying it, because he posted a video playing the other day. So it's not like I'm outing anything that he's shouldn't be playing.
Well, find out about how his golf game is, his demeanor on the course. I want to know, what's he like, on the green, right? was he like in the clutch? The swing looked great. This guy was a guy who was committed to Florida as a true freshman in high school. I guess they're all true freshmen in high school, though people redshirt in high school these days too. So maybe I should clarify. As a 14-year-old in high school, he was committed to Florida to play third base. So super athlete, very talented. Hassan, good morning, DMP. What's the deal with Ryan Clark hating on everyone? I mean, I won't get into all the WNBA stuff. WNBA, man, that's like WWE back in the day, like in the 80s. You know, a lot of racial tension going on, selling a lot of tickets. Maybe like boxing is a better comparison back in the day. So I won't get into all that, but Ryan Clark, as far as like some of the stuff he said about the Canes, man, he's trying to get headlines. That's what it is. He's in the headline business. He's doing a great job. Ryan Clark is not Tom Brady. He's not, Randy Moss. He's not these guys that their name's going to get him in the door. He's got to have some kind of crazy takes to get his name up there, and he's doing a great job. So, that's what he does. You got to kind of just take it for what it is. Our guy Martin Dubé, live from Botswana, saying, you don't have to sell me on Beck. I'm covered in the Kool-Aid once I watched all his games from 23 to 24. Martin, I did the same thing, man. Once you go back and watch all the games, especially the 24 games, because that's when his stock supposedly dropped, you look back and you say, man, this will play in the ACC, because the things that that I think he's better than when you watch the whole game. He's smarter than you think, at least smarter than I thought. Very much in command of a pro-style offense, runs the whole show, and his release and overall athleticism. Quicker release than I expected. Very quick release. Not that much different than Ward, and very athletic. If I'm comparing him and Ward, I do think Ward, it's going to be a hard standard to meet. This is the #1 overall pick, so I'm not expecting him to be Ward. I would say Ward has the advantage just in terms of like the magic, right? Getting outside the pocket, seeing angles that no one else sees, trying throws no one else sees, that personality, which is really a magnetic personality. I think that all gives Ward the edge. But as far as being a pocket passer, as far as being smart, as far as having a great arm, I think him and Ward are pretty similar, and Ward is a beast in the pocket. So that's pretty high praise.
You want to talk about...
Well, hold on. Green Tree's asking about when I'm getting back for storm sessions. That will probably be closer to the beginning of the season, but we'll get back. So I'll be asking him the good questions. So remember, like and subscribe to Storm Sessions, my official show with the University of Miami on the official channel.
You want to talk about the offense last year?
Yeah. Let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about this generational offense.
You want to play the quote?
Yeah. So this is a quote here from Mauro Cristobal. Did a long interview with Josh Pate. He's pretty tight with Pate. Does good. He's pretty candid with him, and I think he had a very interesting bit of candor talking about last season and the defense. So, Pete, why don't you go ahead and play that clip?
Great question. I mean, we lost our way last year because we opened the season playing really good defense. We communicated well, organized, lined up well. We suffered a couple injuries in an area where we weren't really deep, but that shouldn't be the result after losing a couple of guys. We lost our way. That's what happened. And it came in the form of communication, alignment, and assignment, which the simplicity of that makes you play fast. So we went from playing fast and physical to being uncertain and losing a step and playing slow and looking confused. And it was painful because that's a generational offense. I mean, that was made for TV type of stuff right there. And at the very end, again, we're there. Okay. That might as well be this. You're not there. And we recognize that. So we recruited this team to be a 4-down aggressive defense. Okay. And in Coach Heatherman, actually, and I hate to compare people, just saw a lot of what Miami saw in Greg Schiano back in 98, 99, which was a guy who was not only a high level of knowledge, level of expertise, but a system that kicks ass. A system that's very aggressive, that communicates well, that's very sound, that gives you very complicated looks on the back end, that disguises things well on the back end and can play you in base, can play you with movement, can bring pressure, can simulate those pressures and still create situations for the offense that are much more difficult. I think last year we were very easy to figure out, especially after Game 3 and Game 4. I also love the...
Yeah, man. So look, easy to figure out for other teams, confusing for our team, not where you want to be. I think Mauro kind of expressed the feeling of the fan base. This was a generational offense, and we didn't get it done with that generational offense. They don't come around often. So, yeah, man, I thought it was pretty candid. What caught my attention was the comparison to Greg Schiano at Miami, because if those of you who are a little older, closer to my age, I'm a man, I'm 40, Miami's defense was really struggling there on that probation period, even as Butch Davis started to compile what ultimately would be first-round elite defensive players, young guys. But it was Greg Schiano coming in that had that defense playing with an identity, playing fast, hitting guys, getting to the quarterback, really stepping up as the defensive line matured. And I think, Randy Shannon got that Broyles Award in 2001. But I'm telling you, if we would have kept Schiano, that defense would have been even nastier. It was a huge difference when he came in there and got this thing done. I mentioned Greg Schiano was at practice this spring, even as the head coach of Rutgers. Guy's in great shape. He could have, he could coach for a while with the way he looked. But he's tight with Mario, and obviously he had Heatherman as his linebacker coach. Mohamed Toure, who came into Miami to play linebacker from Rutgers, was coached by Heatherman and Schiano. So a lot of ties there, and that comparison jumped out because if you simplify things, if you focus on communication, on fundamentals, on physicality, on playing fast, we saw it happen in 2015 to 2016 when Manny Diaz took over. Went from in the hundreds to the top 10 in defense. Not saying it's going to happen this time. I'm saying it has happened before and potentially could happen again. Any takeaways from that quote, Pete, when you listen to it?
I mean, it was just what I had said yesterday, how serious Mario was about it. He says we lost the way he said it a couple times. We lost our way, and it was just so crazy because you saw how they played in that first game and then the first couple games, and then it just deteriorated as the season went on. And I mean, I think he pretty much explained what it was. I think he's had to catch himself a few times from really going in on Lance Guidry. Because I from what I understand, I don't think the relationship by the end there was great. And I may have shared this anecdote before, but I kind of heard that, Mario kind of went to a midseason and was like, look, we got to do something about this. Like we've got to change something, whether it could be it might have to be a drastic change. And Guidry's response was sort of like, well, what do you suggest then? Like, kind of like, not really offering too many solutions to what was going on. I don't know that the relationship was too good there at the end, but and it was pretty evident, I think, the way that the team was communicating, as he has said. So,
and look, Guidry now analyst for LSU. We'll see where his career goes. So we felt good about him going into the year. So yeah, these things change, but I do think the Schiano factor is compelling to me. And look, if you ask me when Guidry left, got fired, what we needed. And in fact, I believe I said this on the show. I said, listen, I think simplicity, physicality, less confusion, more confidence in your assignment, in your alignment, and playing fast and physical. And that's what Heatherman did with a top 10 defense at Minnesota. So on paper, a perfect fit. Now we got to see if it can be, it could have the same effect that Schiano had back in 2099. Mohammed Hussein, appreciate your support. He said, I just wanted to be known. I've been saying extend Mario since December. Extend him. Listen, I think if Mario wants to be here, now it's about just getting over the finish line, at least over the next goal, which is ACC championship. I think that's what everybody's saying, where everybody's focus is. And if we can get over that hump, I think Mario's going to continue to recruit well, and he'll be here for a long time. But got to get over that hump here. But appreciate your support, Mohammed, as always. A lot of comments on Beck here in the chat. So got Ross Jones saying, Beck is ahead of Ward in terms of his experience level playing against SEC and national caliber competition during his career. Ward did play against Washington, Oregon when he was in the Pac-12 when the Pac-12 was really at its peak, which was right there at the end, ironically. So I think he had good experience. I think both guys, experience is so big in college football. When you're like a 5th, 6th year player and you have all the answers to the test, it's a different animal. You saw that with some of the guys that got drafted this year, the Dylan Gabriels of the world, the Jackson Darts, of course, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. These experienced quarterbacks, man, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix the year before, it's a different animal, and Beck has that experience. Canes 305. Beck against ACC teams in his career. Look at these numbers, man. 66% completion percentage, 953 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think that'll play, Pete.
That'll do.
Sam saying Beck's a 6-year veteran player, and these dummy ND fans think he's going to crack under pressure when their jit freshman quarterback with 0 experience lights it up on the road. Makes no sense at all. I think that's a big advantage for Miami, man. The experience difference at quarterback, particularly, we know how loud it gets. We know how loud it was for that last game against Notre Dame in the same stadium. It was one of the loudest atmospheres in college football that decade. You heard Curb Herbstreit talk about it.
Kirby Herbie.
You heard Kirby Herbie talk about it, man. One of the loudest atmospheres anywhere. And he's been everywhere. So that's going to be an advantage. So, hey, by the way, Kevin, shout out to all the guys working in the heat today. It's hot. Yeah, shout out to everybody working outside. Shout out to all the truckers. Always like to give them love, keeping this country running, and everybody listening to the Canes Insight podcast at work. Jonathan Crumbly talking about Bryce Fitzgerald here says Bryce Fitzgerald needs to be a returner, at least top 5 in the safety rotation. So, Pete, pull up the picture here. We talked about the new arrivals. Bryce Fitzgerald is the one guy in the freshman class that wasn't here for spring not because anything wrong, because Columbus doesn't allow their guys to graduate early like that. He's here, as you can see right there.
I believe it's a Catholic school thing. They need to take I think they need to take a Catholic they need to take a religion course that's not available like online. So that's what it is.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's why these guys can't graduate early, but he made use of his time, man. He won the state championship in the 4x100. So Bryce Fitzgerald, the defensive back / wide receiver / returner from Columbus, let's call him an athlete, 4-star player. He was a state champion at Belen, my alma mater, and as a sophomore in basketball, beats Xavier Mincey's Daytona Beach Maitland team, Alabama defensive back to Miami recruited. So he won the state championships. I believe he played pretty good in that game from what I recall. I think he had like 13 points. Transfers to Columbus, wins the state championship in football, and then this year in the 4x1 wins the state championship. He's got a high about 10.68, win aided in the 100 meters, 21.9 in the 200 meters. I think non-win aided, he's at about 10.8. So this is an elite athlete, has had more interceptions than anybody down here as a safety, but he can run with the best of them. He can play basketball. He can play receiver. He could play defensive back, and he could return kicks. I think physicality, tackling, that's going to be the question with Fitzgerald. His instincts, his athleticism, no one's doubting. To me, kick returner, along with Keelan Marion, who's an All-America kick returner and punt returner, day one, right? Competing with Keontae Scott, who was the best punt returner in the SEC. So you got veterans that have done it, but I would put Bryce Fitzgerald right in that mix. He's got a natural feel. He's got the speed, just a super talented, smooth athlete. The question with him, is he going to be physical enough for defense? I would lean more towards corner than safety just because he's so athletic. And then if he doesn't play defense, wide receiver, I think will work for him because of his speed and his ball skills. But yeah, man, I'm fired up.
I think, sometimes guys like him, he played basketball. He didn't play basketball really the last couple of years at Columbus because, number one, the team was so good. Not that he couldn't have, talking to people, he could have had a little role on that team, but it was just better to stay healthy. And he was working out really hard this spring. And I think you see it. Sometimes these guys who look, is he ever going to be taking guys' heads off across the middle? I don't see that happening. But I think with added strength, added weight here, will be physical enough. And corner, it's a good shout because of his. From what I understand, he's a guy defensively on the basketball court, like that was tenacious defensively, right? Obviously not the same sort of physicality, but I think some of that translates over to the corner position.
Yeah, mirroring guys.
Right. So the side to side, the just the basic footwork, right, that is required at that position. I think with that speed, man, could be I think at that spot could be nice. Now, I think there's an argument to be made as like a deep free safety across the middle. He can cover a lot of ground, man. So he's an exciting prospect that I think has flown a bit under the radar because he hadn't been here. But character-wise, man, everything checks out. and baller. That's just the word that people around Columbus use with him. So excited to see him now over the next few weeks here, kind of how his, we hear these reports and guys who are putting on good weight and running fast and looking good in the 7-on-7 stuff. So I expect him to get some good buzz out there.
Yeah, look, you talk about the need to land day 1, day 2 impact players for the Canes. We talked about the NFL draft. If this guy can tackle even adequate level, you're talking about a day 1, day 2 pick, whether it's safety, corner, whatever. He is that athletic, that instinctive, because some guys can run, but they can't find the football. This guy's the best ball hawk in Miami the last 2 years. South Florida. Some guys, can run fast, but they can't move laterally. The basketball, the fluidity, the return ability. He's smooth on top of being fast. And of course, he can catch the ball. So this is a special talent. He's got to tackle. I think he knows that. He's going to get pushed in that way. Obviously, he can't do much now. He's working on his body in the weight room. That's all he can really do. But I'm extremely excited. Martin Dubé, great point. I agree. People doubt Beck. Not only is he 6th year, but the O-line will give him 4 to 6 second buffer against college defenses. So that's why I think, look, obviously the concern with the Canes, and we'll talk about it all summer, is you don't have a proven playmaker. CJ Daniels could be that injury. You don't have proven playmakers like you had with Restrepo coming back as a 1,000-yard receiver. However, with Beck as a veteran quarterback that's seen it all and has the answers to the test, he's going to have an offensive line that gives him a ton of time. It was recently picked as the best offensive line in the country by some of these national pundits. And then he's got a quick release, and he's going against ACC defenses that he's traditionally shredded. So all those things together, I think, is going to make it easy. Let's say nothing's easy. Easier for a Carson Beck that he doesn't need receivers to sort of bail him out. He can almost help those receivers develop by getting them the ball. You see it in the professional side of things. When you have a young quarterback, you want to give them veteran receivers. Think of Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs, right? Stephon Diggs helped Josh Allen acclimate to the college game or to the pro game because he knew what to do. Now that Josh Allen is the star, you get young receivers like Coleman going to, or what's the small guy from Boise State? Shakur.
Khalil Shakur.
You get young players, and he can build those guys up because he is the veteran with all the experience and skill and confidence. So it goes both ways. I think the fact that we have a veteran quarterback makes me less concerned. Not that I'm not concerned, but makes me less concerned about having a veteran receiving core. We have some veterans there, just not like 1,000-yard veterans aside from a healthy CJ Daniels. But I'm less concerned about that because a guy like JoJo and Malachi Toney, the guys with the real upside to be special talents there that are younger, Beck can bring them along as opposed to Beck needing them to kind of get his confidence. Beck's going to be confident. He's going to have the experience. He's going to know what to do. Those guys just got to get open and catch the football. We talked about Bryce Fitzgerald, Pete, being that elite safety, that elite ball hawk in South Florida. Kind of brings me to, well, let's wait till let's do a little break here before we get there and talk about the number one place to buy apparel, like an Ed Reed jersey or a Sean Taylor jersey. And that's going to be the Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com, located right across the street physically from the University of Miami, but you can go online anywhere in the country, in the world, MiamiHTS.com. You use promo code INSIGHT20. You get 20% off your first item. You got all kinds of sales. It's been 100-year of Miami, University of Miami. So a lot of items associated with that. There you got the throwback Sean Taylor, the throwback Ed Reed from 2001. All kinds of great deals. But promo code INSIGHT20, you get 20% off. Like Johnny Lagoon says, shout out to Harry and Jeremy. They don't miss a beat. Great staff, friendly, best in the business. Miami Hurricane Team Store, promo code INSIGHT20, 20% off. You can use it online, or you can just say it when you go to the store, and you'll get that 20% off your first item. All right, so like I was saying, you saw that throwback Ed Reed. Pretty prominent ball hawk in Miami history, right? We talk about Bryce Fitzgerald maybe following in those footsteps. I saw a cool interview yesterday. This is a new interview. We talked about Ryan Clark earlier. Ryan Clark was interviewing Bill Belichick, about all the crazy stuff Belichick's involved in at UNC with his girlfriend and all that other stuff. I guess now fiance. So, shout out to the young couple there. I think it's going to be a disaster, but, he's talking about the Canes, so we'll focus on that. And he talked about Ed Reed, kind of how a former Cane, Leonard Myers, RIP, passed away tragically, but was a really good player while he was here. How Leonard Myers kind of gave him the heads up on Ed Reed. So I thought this was a really cool clip, Pete. Go and throw it in there.
That guy's so good. He's so good. We drafted a corner who's passed away, Leonard Myers. We drafted him the year before from the University of Miami. His rookie year, at the end of his rookie year, like November, December, whatever it was, I said, hey, who's the best player at Miami? Got a few guys down there in the draft. Is there anybody that, you think's any good? There's Ed Reed, best player on the team. I go, well, how good is he? Best player on the team, best player I've ever seen. This guy's a great player. I'm like, okay. So I start watching him. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is and blocking punts and returning punts, intercepting passes and tackling. He's kind of a tall, skinny guy. He's not that tall, but he's skinny, but he's powerful and he's explosive. He's a good tackler too. And man, is he fast and got good range. And so I'm like, oh man. Then he goes to Baltimore. We didn't get him, of course. And so now he goes to Baltimore. Now we're playing against him in the AFC. And as a punt rusher, he was just, unblockable. Like, this guy was unblockable. And we had special protection for him. We had hurricane protection. And if number 20 was on the field, we ran hurricane protection. We double teamed him and we let somebody else go to get two guys on him. It was ridiculous how good, we were scared to death of him. The guy had him on the line and then the PP had him too. We right. Double teamed him. Hurricane protection. I'm like, oh my God. But they didn't use them all the time on punt rush. I don't know why, but they didn't. And so we'd look out and we'd just run a regular stuff. But if he was out there, special protection for Ed Reed. And then the play he had against Peyton Manning, where he baited him into an interception and everything. Brady and I watched that play. I was like, oh my God, this guy's. I'm asked a ton of respect for him because he could play corner. Yeah. He was a good blitzer. He was a great blitzer. He was unblockable on punt rush. He had great range. If he intercepted the ball, it's probably going to run back for a touchdown because you couldn't tackle him. He could play, it seemed like, any position on the field. Ed Reed, he could play offense. He could play defense. He would have been great in any era, whether it be the 2000s or the 1930s. He could have played in any era. And I have a lot of respect for those players that could have played the game and been great, either time.
Yeah, so people forget how good Ed Reed was at blocking punts. I think Belichick really emphasizes that with the special protection. But I remember seeing him. He would block punts, plus he'd get the punt.
And he'd pick it up, he'd scoop it, yeah.
He was unreal. Great blitzer, too. He was actually known for hitting hard. When I first became aware of Ed Reed, when he was like a redshirt sophomore, when he first broke into the line, maybe he was a redshirt freshman, he was really known more for hitting than he was for the ball hawk. And the ball hawking kind of came later, at least.
Hey, let me tell you something. We got a young safety from New Orleans. The young Dylan Day coming into his redshirt sophomore year. He's known for his hitting right now.
I love it. Hey, big fan.
And history repeat itself.
Big fan of his, as you know. Chris Grotto has a recruiting question. Do you think, Ian, I think he means Isaiah Briggs, the tight end from Visalia, California, is high on the Canes? I heard he is high on the Canes, and he visited unofficially. I believe he was committed to Arizona State, a decommitted, but he visited unofficially. And then here we go. We got Canes 305. He says Israel Briggs is very high on the Canes.
It is Israel Briggs, yeah.
I have some inside scoop on the recruitment with the shush emoji. Yeah, so tall, 6'5", I want to say, a little over 200 pounds, but a fast, talented receiver. He's from basically like oil country, kind of like near the Sierra Nevada in California. I was actually in his hometown, Visalia, California, because I went to Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park last summer. It's country out there. That's a country part of California, man. It's very natural, very beautiful, but it's not like LA or San Francisco. He's out there in the heartland. So be an interesting transition from there to Miami, but obviously he likes the warm weather, and tight ends. We got a pretty nice tradition there. So that to me was pretty interesting with Hezi Kent. With Israel Briggs. Then the question from Sam about Hezi Kent. How is Miami on Hezi Superman Kent, the tight end from Brunswick, the 290-pounder? We have a crystal ball. Is this still a lock, or up in the air. It's definitely not a lock. It's Florida's in on him, but Miami's been on him hard. Coach Whittle's been up there a ton. He's been down here. He's going to take an official visit. So, that's something that to monitor. But Miami would take Hezzy Kent, and they would take Izzy Briggs, and they would take Zach Turner, the smaller, more, dynamic kind of H-back prospect from Duncanville, Texas, there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So Miami's in on all those guys, different body types, different styles, but Miami loves them all three of those guys. Hezzy Superman Kent, the big guy, 290, Izzy Briggs, the tall, long, fast tight end, and then Zachary Turner, the smaller 225-pounder, who is really, really skilled as a wide receiver for one of the best teams in the country in Duncanville. Canes 305 is on Israel Briggs, said ASU was not happy with him taking business and dropped one of the highest-rated recruits in history. Hopefully it works out for the Canes. Pete, I didn't put this on the rundown, but one guy I want to talk about here as I share my screen is another California guy. This guy's from Mission Viejo.
Remember to turn the audio off.
In Orange County. I got it, Pete. I got it. I've learned how to produce a little bit from Orange County, California. And this is Vance Spafford. As you see here, he set official visits. He's committed to Georgia. He's got Washington, UCLA, Southern California. So 3 basically local schools. Washington a little further north, but on the Pacific coast. Then Georgia, where he's committed to, and then finishing with the University of Miami. So why am I focused on a guy like this for the University of Miami? He's committed to Georgia. They're pretty good. Number one, sounds like even though he has those Pacific schools on the radar, everything you hear is that distance is not going to be a factor with Vance Spafford. We'll have to see on that, but that's the message that we're getting on Vance Spafford. And the fact is, he visited Miami in the spring. I walked up to him. He's not the biggest guy in the world, man. To be honest, he looks like an equipment guy when you see him. He's just a small dude, not skinny, not physically blowing you away, but the way the staff was on his hip, you knew this was a big time player. And I'm told Miami loves this guy. He said, I'm pretty sure he said it publicly to one of these reporters that Miami was his best visit when he took that unofficial. You look at the picture. You're like, why is Miami after a little white dude? This is one of the fastest, most dynamic, most productive wide receivers in America. As we watch the huddle here from Vance Spafford, let's take a look at what he's got going on. But this dude this is not like a walk-on dude. I know he might look like a walk-on, but this is a premium elite player with all the moves, all the production, great hands, and elite speed. I actually saw this guy at OT7, which is like the national 7-on-7 tournament. This was last year in Tampa, Florida. So he might have been a sophomore, I believe, at the time. He was a younger player, and he was cooking raw 7-on-7, which at the time had like Ben Hanks and all those guys. And he was just slicing them up, man. He has legitimate elite speed. Obviously, he's committed to Georgia. They'll compare him to Lad McConkey because he's a white guy. He runs fast. But, man, this guy is very, very, very explosive. Would give Miami a different look in the slot than they've had. Restrepo is the best slot returner in the country, but he didn't have that kind of speed. This guy, I think, could play inside and outside. But when you put him inside, he has the ability to just crush you in the seam because of that speed. Here you go. You see some of his movement skills, some breaking some tackles. His production, and this highlight reel is going team by team, so it's not even putting his big plays up first. Look at the physicality on that block. God, I love to see that. But this guy was like ridiculously productive, put up huge numbers in Orange County, which is something I always look for with receivers. Are they productive? And then on the track, you're talking about elite speed. Let me just pull up his track numbers here as you just look for verified numbers on him. Not just trusting the tape, just look for verified numbers. This guy's personal best in the 100 meters, 10.69. Consistently in the 10s as a 10th grader. I don't believe he's run as a junior. So, yeah, pretty talented dude.
Christianville says, I still need Jason Lopez to be a Cane. I would love him too. I think the interesting thing there to watch will be the basketball side, because I think he wants to play basketball at a high level at the next level. And I don't know what the interest from Miami side in terms of basketball is. We know that Jay Lucas is star hunting on that side, and I think Lopez can play a role at Miami on the basketball court without a doubt. But I think that'll be the thing to watch there, because there are other programs who want him heavily right now at this point for both. I'm not saying it can't happen basketball wise. We just saw Calvin Russell get his offer in basketball, but that'll be, I think, the separator in his recruitment.
Yeah, 1,250 people on live right now. Remember to like and subscribe to this show. Follow us on YouTube. We're on every single day. On Jason Lopez, I can tell you Miami loves him for football. I don't know the basketball side. That's more on the Pete side of the fence. But basketball wise, Miami loves Jason Lopez. He is not a backup plan. He's a high priority recruit. They love Jason Lopez. Would love to add him to this team.
Brandon asking latest on hoops, any news? Trenton Breeze had some great stuff over the weekend. I know that the coaches were on the road at some tournaments this weekend with some eyes on a lot of prospects for the next couple of years. In terms of this team, man, I dropped the name Saleh Altuntaj from Turkey. Expect him to be an addition here soon to this team for next year. The pro, we talked about it last week and posted about it on the board last week as well. And I think they're pretty much done, man. Maybe one more after that, but I don't know how much else they're going to add. I would love to see if they can add a shooter here at the end, but there's really not much available at this point, man.
Yeah, like a lot of work's been done. I never thought they'd be able to get a backup center like that. So,
and you know what? We never spoke. I didn't speak about it on the show, but a story that we broke over the weekend, and Miami hasn't announced this yet, but it's 100%. This is done. We announced it. Russell Springman joining staff. So he is the former head coach, and this was the guy that I had been referencing as a former head coach at the D1 level. And Russell Springman was the head coach at oh wow, he actually is. He's changed his profile, so he has it in his profile now. Let me pull it up. But this guy was the head coach at Oral Roberts the last 3 years, and was actually at Florida and Texas with Jay Lucas when he was a player, when he was a young assistant. So this is a guy who, here you go. He has it in his bio, assistant coach for the U. Now it's official as he's posted it. Miami hasn't announced it, but we broke the story again over the weekend. And you just add another nice, a guy who's, look, I'm sure he wants to be a head coach again, right? So we'll figure out, we'll see what his role is going to be here. But I think it's really, really valuable to have someone like him in the building who is coming off a job that obviously he was only there for 3 years and he's not the head guy anymore. So I'm sure he learned a ton, from mistakes that he made, and is bringing a lot of experience with him from big time programs as well previously. So adding him to the staff was a nice piece. You have a bunch of, guys who are obviously thought of as great recruiters. Charlton Young, Jay Lucas himself. You have developers that you've obviously added to the staff with an Andrew Moran. So I think this rounds out a very well-rounded staff. We'll see if there's still like a GM, an official GM addition. LJ Rose is there as, I believe, the head of player development. Or maybe that's Moran's role, but LJ Rose's role. Let me see what his official title. And this is he came over from Houston. So he's the director of player personnel, right? So that's on the personnel side. Moran is director of player development, but it still wouldn't completely shock me to see a GM, like a general manager, added. But yeah, Russell Springman, like that addition. Yeah,
I agree. I think he's brings a different look, like you said, to a staff that's got different kinds of people, different kinds of backgrounds as far as like where they came from, high school, college head coach experience, college assistant experience, etc. So local ties, non-local ties. I like the way the staffs come together. I like everything that's happening in Canes basketball. We just got to see it. My real concern from a 25, 26 standpoint is just, how do the pieces fit together? Are you going to have enough shooting? But the strength, physicality, Caleb Gaskins, 5-star for next year, 26 from Columbus.
Looking good there, yeah.
Had a great performance at the EYBL. Trenton Breeze was all over it. Just got a crystal ball to Miami. This is a 5-star player. I believe he's number 12 in the country. He's actually higher rated, I believe, than
Shelton Henderson was.
Yeah, but similar size, physicality.
Physicality, yeah.
One of the things we talked about it too, Pete, is we have a lot of strong players joining the team. You're not seeing guys built like Jalen Blackman, guys built like Jolie Bethea, not even guys built like Lynn Kidd. He had some size, but didn't really use it. We're seeing physical, strong players all across the board at every position, guard, center, wing. And you get a guy like Caleb Gaskins,
Yeah,
five-star.
number one player in the state of Florida, according to 247. And composite, excuse me, that's the composite number one player in the state of Florida. And we understand the talent coming out of the state. Now, I'm really interested to see this year for him. Now, obviously, without the boozers there, where a lot of the offense kind of ran through them in terms of, the set plays, right? He's going to be a guy who now probably has the ball in his hands a little bit more in terms of initiating offense. So going to be really interested to see that development for him, but has all the physical tools in the world.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing. I like that he's making shots. I didn't know that he had that in his bag. You look at him and you kind of put him in the same bucket as Henderson as far as being these physical wings that maybe the shot is usually the weakness with those guys. But he makes shots. He makes threes. So he could be an arrow up. I mean, maybe he's top 10, top 5 by the end of the year, right? There's still time there. Seems like EYBL was a positive step forward from him.
Kevin Dennis says, any update on the one bruiser, bro? We have a chance with Pete. Kevin, I'll give you the good news and the bad news. There was a chance with both, but it's over, man. It's over. I can confirm it's over.
Yep. So yeah, tough break. We talked about that a lot off air. A couple questions here before we get out of here. Day-Day's asking, what do you guys think of Tony Johnson? This is the transfer from Cincinnati, slot receiver. So he originally from Ocala, Florida, I believe. This was the same school as Nkosi Perry. Would have been after him. Walks on
Vanguard.
Yeah, I believe. And then he was at Vanguard, but he was from Ocala for sure. Walked on at FAU, academic walk-on, so he's smart. Produced at FAU, then moved on to Cincinnati where he led the team in touchdowns. I don't think he's going to be, a superstar, but this is a glue guy. That's how the term that I heard on him. Smart, experienced, can run a little bit. Not the strongest guy, a little skinny, but can run, can get open, catch the ball. And I think you have Malachi Toney as a true freshman that you have super high hopes for, but it's a true freshman. Ray, still hoping he can get going. This is a solid slot option who's played and produced in an offense that really, really uses a slot receiver. So I think that's something to watch there. Baja Trey asking, where do we stand with James Johnson, Lamar Brown? Any info on those guys? Lamar Brown, 5-star from Baton Rouge. Miami's working that one hard. He visited unofficially, but I don't think that one's has the most momentum right now, but they're working it and there is interest. He did visit unofficially. James Johnson, they'd love to land him, visit unofficially this spring. He's at Miami Northwestern. They were out there past Friday for the spring game. So they'll keep working that one. I think he just threw the shot put about 61, which for Florida, that could win you state championship. Now, Jackson Cantwell's in that 75 range. He's out of this planet. But James Johnson, very, very powerful shot putter. Number one defensive lineman in the country according to On3, which was the most accurate rating service for the last draft. We'll see what happens. He's getting close to a must get. All right, guys, 1300 on, man. Like and subscribe to this show. We're on every single day talking Canes all over the spectrum. But a pretty good show today, Pete. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, man. Good. Appreciate the support. Like you said, over 1,300. Great numbers, man. In the beginning of summer here, man. I don't know about you, D, in the beach, but it's starting to get hot in Miami. That humidity's setting in.
I love it, man. It's like a warm hug. I can't live without it. I'm going to New York for some work stuff this weekend, and dreading it. I can't wait to get
the
back.
Weather. What are you talking about? I'm sure the weather will be perfect up there.
Big buildings, taxi cabs. I'm not trying to look at Jimmy Kimmel's face on the back of a cab and get dizzy.
We know we know why you're upset. You're gonna have to see the Knicks fans running around town all happy.
Yeah, it's a new thing for them. So
new. This ain't new to us. It's true to us, man. It's true to us.
I'm sure it's exciting discovering all these feelings for the first time in the Eastern Conference Championship, which Miami, I believe, has been in what? Let's see, 3, 5.
Listen, our franchises are different, man.
Nine,
you guys hang banners for players from other franchises. You hang banners for football players. You're hanging banners for anything. So, the feeling is you guys get a feeling for anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see. Brian said he saw me posted up behind home plate during the Canes baseball game Saturday. That was a hot game. Talk about the heat. That was a hot game. I was there with some dads and moms from our baseball league, Danny and Barry, Miami Beach baseball. Got a tournament here a couple of weeks, so we got to get back on the winning track. Lost that championship. 3 players born between May 1st cutoff and the championship game, which was May 12th or something. So pretty convenient. You had 3 11-year-olds who turned 11 right after the cutoff and right before the game. Funny how that works, but we'll get him next year.
All right, everyone. Appreciate you watching the show today. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Go Canes.
Go Canes.